There's definitely something happening in Santa Clara right now, and no, this doesn't feel like just another routine stretch of off-season tweaks. Because when you put all of this together, cap space getting opened up, rumors starting to heat up, obvious roster holes still sitting there, draft projections that actually make sense, and even changes on special teams, it starts to feel like the 49ers are still building towards something bigger. And that's exactly why fans are locked in. Not just because of what's already happened, but because of what all these signs might be pointing to next. So now the big question is obvious. What exactly are the 49ers setting up behind the scenes? And if there's one storyline that explains why this fan base is watching this offseason so closely, it's the pass rush. Because this wasn't some minor issue last season. It was a massive problem. San Francisco finished dead last in the NFL in sacks with just 20. And that number alone tells you everything you need to know about how urgent this situation really is. Then it got even worse when Bryce Huff unexpectedly retired after being one of the most productive players on the unit in pressures, hurries, and quarterback hits. And on top of that, Clelin Ferrell is still a free agent. So now the 49ers are staring at a very real void on the edge. And that's where Joey Bosa starts blowing this whole conversation wide open. Because this isn't just some random fantasy tossed out for clicks. There's an actual thread here. The 49ers were already linked to Joey before, and now new signs are pouring gasoline on the fire. The photo shared by the Bosa family showing both brothers in 49ers gear instantly sent fans into a frenzy. Does that confirm anything? No, of course not. But in the NFL, little moments like that take on a life of their own when they line up with a real roster need. And this is absolutely a real roster need. The 49ers need edge help. They need rotation. They need pressure. They need somebody who can take some of the heat off that front and help bring real juice from the other side. And when even Bill Barnwell is saying this feels like the obvious move, it stops sounding like pure fan fiction and starts sounding like a legit possibility, especially when you think about Joey Bosa in a rotational role instead of asking him to carry everything. That kind of setup could make a lot of sense for where this team is right now. But then comes the detail that really turns this into something bigger. Nick Bosa's contract restructure. According to Michael Giannitti, that move created more than $17 million in 2026 cap space and gave San Francisco a much more flexible financial position. And once that happened, the whole conversation got louder, because when a team clears space, has a glaring need at a premium position, and a big-name pass rusher is still out there, it becomes really hard not to connect the dots. Now let's be clear. None of this is official. Nothing is done. Nothing is confirmed. But the signs are there, and when multiple signs start pointing in the same direction, it absolutely feels like the 49ers are putting themselves in position to make one of the most talked about moves of the offseason. And if that happens, this defense suddenly looks a whole lot more dangerous. But while the pass rush situation is grabbing headlines, there's another issue that deserves just as much attention: the interior offensive line. Because there's one thing that keeps jumping off the page with this roster. The 49ers are still talented, still dangerous, still loaded with offensive potential, but they also still have one weakness that can mess up the entire operation if it's not fixed the right way. And that's exactly why the Mekhi Becton rumor is getting so much traction, even without an official announcement or public confirmation. What makes this rumor interesting isn't safety, it's upside. Becton is still the kind of player who grabs attention because of the physical package, the size, the power, the rare athletic profile. He still looks like the kind of guy coaches believe they can unlock. At the same time, there are obvious questions because his recent path hasn't lived up to the expectations that came with his draft status. And that's exactly what makes this such a fascinating possibility. It's risk mixed with upside. It's uncertainty mixed with intrigue. And for a team that still needs to stabilize the middle of the line, a player with tools like that is always going to become a serious topic. And for San Francisco, this makes real sense. The 49ers don't just need another body in the room. They need stability. They need real competition. They need to stop the interior of the line from becoming the crack that spreads through the whole offense. Because when pressure comes right up the middle, everything gets shaky. The pocket collapses faster. The run game loses rhythm. Timing gets disrupted. Execution slips. And suddenly one weak point starts dragging down the entire system. That's why a possible Becton move wouldn't just be about depth. It would be about trying to fix one of the few clear concerns still hanging over this roster. Now again, let's keep this grounded. It's still just a rumor. A rumor is not a done deal. But rumors like this usually don't appear out of thin air. They show up when there's a real need, a believable fit, and a player still waiting for the right opportunity. The 49ers have the need. Becton is still out there, and that alone is enough to set this fan base on fire. And honestly, this is exactly the kind of move that splits the room and gets everybody talking. Some fans will see danger, others will see a bargain with huge upside. Some will say it's too risky, others will say this is exactly the type of swing good teams take. And that's what makes it compelling. Because if San Francisco makes that bet and it actually works, the 49ers could turn a real weakness into one of the sneakiest wins of the offseason. So tell me this, would you roll the dice on a move like that, or would you stay far away? Drop that in the comments, because this one is absolutely going to divide the fan base. And then there's the draft. Because even if the 49ers still make another move in free agency, the need to find an edge rusher with real impact is still hanging there. Maybe even more than ever. It matters for right now, and it matters for the long-term future of the position. That's why the projection linking San Francisco to Akeem Mesidor at pick 27 feels so interesting in this moment. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense. The idea behind that mock is simple. The 49ers are in win-now mode. They're not looking for some long-range development project if they can avoid it. They want someone who can help as soon as possible. And when that mindset is attached to a player described as productive and versatile, you can see why the connection starts to feel real. Mesidor is coming off a big season with 12.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 68 total tackles. That's not a quiet resume. That's a player who was all over the field and constantly around the action. And that matters for a team desperate to create more pressure. Another thing that makes this fit interesting is the versatility. The scouting breakdown highlights how Mesidor lined up in multiple spots across the defensive front during his college career. That kind of flexibility matters in a defense that wants to create pressure in different ways. The 49ers don't just need somebody to fill a spot. They need someone who gives them options, someone they can move around, someone who can fit into different looks and help make the front more unpredictable. Now, there is a real question here. The report also points out that he really broke out this past season, and that opens up a fair debate about how much of that jump was individual growth versus being surrounded by high-level talent. And that matters, because a first-round pick has to be more than a flash. You need staying power. You need a player who can keep climbing and not just ride momentum. So if the 49ers go in that direction, they'd be betting that Mesidor's rise is real and that his best football is still ahead of him. But that's why this draft conversation feels so important, because if San Francisco sees him as someone who can contribute early and still grow next to top talent, then this isn't just a logical pick. It's a strategic one. And in an offseason where the team is still trying to close critical gaps, one decision like that could completely reshape the identity of this defense. And then there's one more move that might not generate the same buzz as pass rush rumors or draft talk, but I still think it matters. A lot. The 49ers added punter Corliss Waitman, and on the surface that might feel like background noise, but I don't see it that way at all. I see it as another sign that this team is still trying to tighten every loose screw on the roster. The report came out Saturday that San Francisco signed the former Steelers punter, and shortly after that, the deal was confirmed through his agent. When I look at that move, my first reaction is simple. This doesn't feel like an open competition. It feels like a changing of the guard, especially with Thomas Morstead posting a farewell message to the team and the fans, clearly signaling that he's moving on. And that matters. This is now the third punter in 3 years. That's not nothing. When a team keeps rotating through a position like that, I don't see a minor footnote. I see a team still searching for stability in a role that affects field position, hidden yardage, and those tight moments that swing close games. Ever since the last steady stretch at the position, it's felt unsettled. So any move here has more weight than people want to admit. And when you look at Waitman's numbers, there's at least a reason to believe this could help. He averaged 45.5 yards per punt in 2025, a little better than Morstead's 43.6. He also pinned 26 punts inside the 20, which stands out. And another stat jumps off the page too. Even with more punts, Waitman allowed fewer return yards than Morstead. Sure, special teams coverage plays a role in that, absolutely. But it's still a positive indicator, and for a team trying to improve the margins, those details matter. I'm not going to act like this is some franchise-altering blockbuster. It's not. But I'm also not going to shrug it off in an offseason where the 49ers are clearly trying to patch multiple spots at once. Because when you stack this move next to everything else, it reinforces the same feeling. San Francisco doesn't want easy weaknesses sitting around on this roster. And sometimes the quieter moves are the ones that help complete the bigger picture. So when I step back and look at everything together, the message feels pretty clear. The 49ers are not done. I see a team creating flexibility, getting linked to major possibilities, trying to fix real weaknesses, thinking about the present, and protecting the future at the same time. No, that doesn't mean every rumor turns into reality. No, it doesn't guarantee every move lands. But the signs are real, and they're strong enough to keep Santa Clara right in the middle of the NFL conversation. And honestly, I think this offseason still has another big twist coming for San Francisco. If you're feeling that too, hit the comments, send this to another 49ers fan, and let's talk about what the next domino could be.